Hey, Cheekers! Welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, a female speaker, mentor, speaker, and event host on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. In today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Dilys Sillah. Dilys is a transformational life coach specializing in emotional independence and relationship coaching. She's a TEDx speaker and founder of the former charity Who Will Hear My Cry that raised awareness on rape, child abuse, and domestic violence. Needless to say, Dilys is a keen advocate of women and children, and the author of best-selling book, Not This Widow, A Journey of Grief, Love, Loss, Strength, and Survival. She is also author of Predator or Prince, How to Find the Man of Your Dreams, Not Your Nightmare, educating women on how to spot the red flags in men who may be emotionally or physically abusive. In this episode, we'll talk about Dilys's personal grief journey, the grief trauma, and the mindset that she adopted to raise above it all and use the experience to catapult her to her next level of success. Remember, all the links shared in this show can be found in the show notes. The only way to make sure that you get your regular fix of this show is to hit that subscribe button and make sure that you subscribe so that you get updates as soon as a new show is added. Well, that is more than enough from me for now. So let's get on with the show. Hey, Cheekers, welcome back to another episode of the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. Mamma mia, have we been on a journey, folks? And I'm not going to lie, we're almost at the end of season 1. Look, here's the thing though. Provided you've hit that subscribe button, as soon as season 2 is back, you will be able to hear us go right out and live. But don't worry, I'm going to keep it coming, right? So don't get too sad just because we're near the end. We are not finished yet, and I'm going to end strong. So my guest today is one of the most, how do I put this? I kind of think it's the same with all of my guests, like super powerful, super strong. But you know, some people you meet, they've just got that core of steel where you're just like, girl, how do you do it? So this woman runs her own business. When I met her, I was actually doing emceeing a gig for her because she does a huge amount of humanitarian work as well. One of the reasons I brought her on the show today, and one of the reasons I think this woman has got an absolute core of steel, is she sadly lost her husband. And when she did, listen up, she wrote a book whilst grieving. I mean, who does that? Who has the strength to do that? I'm going to tell you who. Dilys Sillah does. Hey, Dilys.
Hello, my love. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. I kind of looked over my shoulder to check. Is that me?
Who should be talking about? Who should be talking about? She can't be talking about me. But look, I can't interview you and not talk about the book and not talk about that journey, because I met your husband, beautiful soul. His passing was absolutely tragic, and having seen you at that point when it was so fresh, how on earth did you write a book? That's what I want to know. How did you? Firstly, what would possess you to write a book when you've got all of that going on?
I think you put it well. What would possess me? Because I didn't count the cost of writing that book. I was being subjected to things that I didn't even know existed, i.e. a lot of cultural abuse when I lost my husband. And I couldn't believe that the first I was learning of this, abuse and certain traditions and some really harmful, practices and narratives was when I lost my own husband. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, how come nobody said anything to at least allow me to be better prepared for something that in all intents and purposes, right here, right now, is inevitable. So, for example, it's like in Africa, or at least in the parts of Africa that I know of, a man can't just die. His wife must have killed him. There must have been something. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Exactly. you know, you must have done something. You must have willed him to die or used black magic to kill him. I'm thinking, I live in England. I don't live in some village in Ghana or Sierra Leone, which is where my late husband was from. So to hear this level of filth, because that's what it was to me, I was incredulous. And I was angry at the fact that any woman at the most vulnerable, most devastating time of her life would be accused of being the source of her vulnerability and devastation. My writing the book was to sound a siren, to say, hey, this is going on and it must stop. So the first part of my book is very much, you know, a memoir. It speaks about my life, you know, how I met my late husband and the struggles of looking after somebody who was ill, and the kind of abuse that I was put through and subjected to. And then the second half of the book speaks about how you can walk this grief journey in a way that is authentic, and the things that we need to do to support people who grieve, because we just take it in turns. No one's immune from grief. I just went first, that's all. And every married woman, as devastating and as shocking as it sounds, has the potential to be a widow. So I'm like, well, you know what? And it's horrible, but that's the reality of it. What are we doing to prepare ourselves? And you know, of course, we can't be 100% prepared because grief hits us in different places. And I think my message was that we need to understand that how we grieve is as unique as our DNA. We must give people the space to be able to do that. That's why I wrote the book, without realizing halfway through how devastating it was for me. And, you know, I then employed the services of a counselor. And that's how I got through it. So that's the truth behind what possessed me to write the book.
So it was really just, this is not right, and I'm not going to sit in silence.
100%.
Like, I'm not going to sit back and take this and be another statistic who is sideswiped in a dreadful time. Really, you're in shock. You're processing stuff. It's a lot to go through, but to write, why immediately at that time? Like, I can kind of see the idea of you going, right, when this is done, I'm putting this all down. But you kind of went, nope, not right now, not this one. In fact, you actually call the book Not This Widow, Not Happening.
Yeah.
And to write it in that moment, in the raw state, what was that like?
It was awful. And like I said, I didn't count the cost of writing the book. I was writing the book because, as I said, to just sound the siren that, hey guys, this is going on and it must stop. This should not be allowed to happen. This is wrong. This is evil. When I got to the part where I started to recount when, you know, my late husband fell ill, having to relive that made me ill. And that's when I thought, wow, I don't think I processed this very well. And, you know, I got in touch with, you know, I actually employed the services of an excellent counselor. And she asked me, she said that you seem to always be more concerned about other people. Did you consider yourself? I said, well, the real answer is no, I didn't. It didn't cross my mind. But I've always had this thing that, you know, yes, I am strong. I don't do this for myself. I do it for the ones that aren't as strong and they need to be helped. And I sincerely believe that in this life, we go through certain experiences, not for ourselves, but for those coming up, that they can look and say, oh, well, Lovelda went through it and she's okay. Dilys went through it, she's fine. There's hope for me. It's very important for me that women have got that picture to see that there is hope, that the fact that you lost your husband is not the end. And in fact, I will be writing a book. I've pitched it in the next 2-3 years because I believe by the grace of God, I'll be where I need to be, called The Necessity of Loss.
Wow. And I love how future thinking you are. So how did you support yourself? Because you touched on something there that I think is rife amongst women, which is very much looking to support, be the support of others, be the rock for others, be that person who's striving for justice for others, be that family members or whomever. How did you get to a point, or what did you do that had you be able to turn inwards for a moment? Was there a mindset shift? How did you get to that point?
I think it was the point at which I was accused of killing my husband, and speaking to people about it. Actually, no. It was when one of my husband's cousins sent me a text message telling me that I had no right to ban certain people from the funeral. And I did ban his brother from the funeral and other family members. And I mean, you and, Simone were there, and, I was so grateful, and seeing Simone, it broke my heart actually, because I remember I was actually in the car about to leave to go to the venue. And there was about 600 people there. And I just so happened, it was crazy. And I just happened to see him. And I actually had security at the funeral because I don't mess about. And
Wow.
It was at the point that I was told how I could bury my own husband, because they had determined that I was the source of all things bad, around the demise of my husband. And that was the turning point where I thought, enough is enough. I have children who are grieving, that I have to take care of their, emotional and mental health. And then being accused of killing my husband, I just thought, you know what, you have a damn cheek. Mm-hmm. And that's when I called time on it. And I said, enough.
How do you strike that balance, right? There's that bit, there's a, what's it called? There's a movie by, I can't remember the name of the guy now. It's called Mad Black Woman or something like that. But essentially there's that point where you can either turn inwards and focus on yourself, or you can lash out, right? And just kind of be like, enough's enough. That's it. I'm a come for you. I'm a come for you. Coming for me, I'm a come for you. Mm. What was it that had you find a balance there to kind of not want to retaliate, not want to go after people? It's a huge accusation for somebody to say, look, the person you've just lost, your best friend, who's closest and dearest to you, you did it. No evidence, no nothing, just it must have been you. Mm-hmm. To not lash out with them. Like, how did you find a space how did you process that to remain so calm?
I'm a very difficult person to project your bullshit onto. In fact, it's virtually impossible. Nobody has the privilege and the right to tell me who I am. It's not a power that I relinquish or pass on to anybody. You don't get to tell me who I am. Mm. So I never internalized the foolishness. What I did was I responded by telling the person that made that statement initially that your husband died before mine. Therefore, I am just being a good student and I'm following in your footsteps. So really what you should be doing is giving me a medal. But more to the point, if you knew that your relative was in the house or married to a woman that was capable of killing him, does that not then make you an accessory to murder? So shouldn't you be giving me a round of applause for doing your dirty work? That was my response.
Wow.
I don't have it. It doesn't shift me. It doesn't move me. I don't internalize that kind of stuff. Because at the time, what a lot of people didn't know, that I was also receiving very abusive messages on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook. Very disgusting messages that I'm glad that my husband is dead. Very, 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 even the day I buried my husband, the day of the funeral, yes, I saw messages. Listen, I've been through a lot, but I refused to give anybody the pleasure to sit there and say, Dilys shed a tear, and that tear was because of me. My tears are very precious. And I even taught my daughter, I said, I don't believe that you shouldn't be emotional. You must be. Mm-hmm. But people have to earn the right to see your vulnerability and your tears. So don't you ever shed your tears for anybody to see that hasn't earned that right. So no, I wasn't going to allow those people to make me, huddle in a corner crying. Oh, they said I killed my husband. You must be crazy. No.
There's something that you said there I want to unpack, because I think some people listening could skim right over it, right? Because there was some stuff in there that was deep, like deep. And what you said was, I do not take on other people's projections. And it is that interpretation. Like, the very first person I interviewed on this show was a beautiful woman called Marsha Martin. And she very much spoke about, how do you choose to react to what somebody else says? And I think it's that we can often forget that it's a choice to say, because they did that, I then chose to break down and cry. I then chose
Absolutely.
to take on that I'm not good enough. I then chose to, but it's essentially, it's not an empowered position, but it does take a degree of consciousness to be aware of it, and to be able to separate yourself from the words, to get that those are words, and those are related to their perspective, their view of the world, their internal dialogue, their beliefs, their etc. And you have a choice as to whether or not you're going to take that in and entertain it, or whether
100%.
you're going to allow it to wash off. And that doesn't mean, girl, I don't think that means it didn't hurt. I don't think you could sit there and say, look, if somebody said that, it doesn't hurt. But how you choose to react in that moment and interact with them is very different.
Yes.
From you don't have to automatically go. You can hang up the phone. You can delete the message. You can
100%.
not respond for 2 days. You don't need to, because they sent it right now in the heat of the moment, kick something off immediately afterwards. So, a lot of stuff in there, and thank you so much for being so open and so honest in your sharing. It's not a space that often people can get to so quickly. It hasn't been that long, really. We're not talking that this happened 20 years ago, or it happened even 5 years ago. So to be in a space where you're able to share something that many would actually think of as a very traumatic experience, to be in a space where you're clear enough to have a conversation in a grounded way, I really appreciate it. And so I want to honor and thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
It is a lot. And I think it's something that, is definitely going to support other women listening who perhaps have gone through something similar. Some people move past it faster, and some it might be, girl, for you, it may have happened 5 years ago. It may have happened 10 years ago, and you're still living with the pain and the etc., all of that sort of stuff with it. And I love that you've come to a space of a lot of clarity, and
yes.
And I'm not sensing any anger, It's a place where, having been through that kind of depth of, let's face it, attack, and in such a time of loss and grieving and a very vulnerable space, it would not be difficult to step into. And I don't think people would kind of look at you badly if you stepped into a place of anger with it. Right? It's kind of understandable to have taken on anger as a weapon of defense. And what I love about you is that's not the way that you've approached things. You've gifted the world this beautiful book and this conversation to allow others who may experience something similar to be able to process it and get that there is a life after that. That doesn't mean that you have to be weighed down by it. So, my dear, given your background and the experiences you've been through, and you've had some incredible highs and some incredible lows. I mean, you're the sort of person who lives on the extreme. So we've talked about some of the lows. I also want to cover some of the highs, so that people don't just think, Dilys just had it hard. Dilys didn't just have it hard, peeps. Dilys is incredible. So, can you share some of your big wins?
I would say the book. I would say the book is a big win for me. I mean, it ended up being, getting on the bestsellers list. It was a big win for me. I think the other big win for me from the book is being able to connect with some, other women that have had the same experience, and it has given them hope, and that they've looked at me and seen that it is possible for you to be hit with the most devastating thing in your life, but at the same time, it not defining you. So I resented being called the widow. I'm like, before he was, I was. And after he's gone, I am. So do not describe me as the widow. That my whole identity is tied into an event, a horrible event that happened in my life. Mm-hmm. That's why I named the book Not This Widow. Maybe other widows, not this one.
Not this one.
Mm-mm. I think another high for me was, I'm now living my best life.
Wow.
Something has shifted, and that's why I will write that book, The Necessity of Loss. Not that I was happy to lose my husband, but I understand it in a much deeper, more spiritual and significant way, in a more of a way from what your destiny dictates needs to happen for you to fulfill yours. Mm-hmm. It's too complicated and complex for me to explain right now. And that's why this book won't be written for another 2 to 3 years. Because where I will be at that time, there will be a much deeper understanding as to why that book is being written and read. So I think, you know, understanding my purpose in life and fulfilling my own calling has got to be the biggest. In fact, nothing compares. You know, I was 49 on Tuesday.
Happy birthday, girl.
Thank you. I was so looking forward to it because I knew that the moment that clock struck 12, this is it. This is it. All the pain, the disappointment and everything was for a reason. Mm-hmm. I am now about to step into my power as a woman. And I get it. That's why you see this piece like a river. Yeah. Because I am where I need to be.
So calm, so collected, so beautifully put together, which brings me so beautifully on to my next question. You mentioned power. What is it that you think is the essence of a woman's power? What makes a woman powerful?
I think knowing who you are as a woman makes you powerful, but being brave and humble enough to do that introspection, to say, yes, okay, I didn't come from the best background. Mm-hmm. And rather than live in denial of the impact of that negative upbringing or existence, I'm not going to explain it away or dress it up with makeup and hair and nails and heels. I'm okay now because I'm showing up and everybody tells me how beautiful I am and how accomplished I am because I've got this letter after my name. That's not what brings a woman into her power. What brings a woman into her power is being able to look in the mirror and say, I am not happy with what I see. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I am walking in a spirit of unforgiveness. And I want to give up these things because I want to be stripped away in my nakedness so that I can begin to build and have a new foundation than the one that was handed to me. That's what makes a woman powerful. Is it easy to do? No. Looking in the mirror and saying what I see is ugly is difficult, but it requires balls and it requires a tenacity and a diehard attitude to say, I will survive, having looked at the rape or the abuse or the rejection or the poverty or the words spoken over me that were not positive, and admitting that, yes, I took all these things on board to define me, but today I make the decision to say enough is enough. I want to peel these layers away so I can see who I really am. And in its nakedness say, I accept you and I love you as you are, but I'm going to make you better. That's when you're powerful. Not when, you know, you're in front of an audience and everybody's applauding you and telling you how great. Because when they all go, you're left with you. Who is she? That's what makes a woman powerful.
I have got chills because it's so true. Often the insecurities, the things we don't like, I mean, to face them head on.
Yep.
In all their rawness, in all the hurts, in all the shame, in all, you know, where all of that stuff is kind of collected together and just go, I don't like this. In other words, I don't like me. Just to be honest with you, it doesn't define that you won't like yourself for the rest of your life, but to be able to go to the source of that thing that really is holding you back rather than conceal it and put a show around it. Here we go. Like if I put enough hair and makeup and shoes and degrees, that's another one, degrees and achievements around it, people ain't gonna know. They may not know, but trust me, every day when it's just you, ain't nobody else to see, you know.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. So what are your power tools? If we were to, because you have lived some lives. I'm gonna have to pluralize it. You have lived some lives.
Sure.
What would you say are your personal power tools? So if we were going to take everything that you've done in your life to date, be it in business, be it in relationships, personally, and we were to boil all of that down and to say, well, if we look at all of the successes that you've had, and boil that down to say these things were fundamental to you being able to achieve those successes, and you're only allowed 3, what would those 3 things be? We're going to start with number 1. What would be your first power tool?
Faith.
Faith.
My faith is what has made me the woman that I am today. So, I mean, for those that don't know, I think it should be pretty obvious by now. I'm a Christian woman, born again Christian woman. I live by the word. That's why nobody gets to tell me who I am. You know, a lot of people speak about the Bible from hearsay. Oh, but the Bible's very sexist. Says who? Oh, but the Bible doesn't like women. Says who? Part of the Bible in the Old Testament is a narrative of what the times were like at that time. You've got to read things in context. But when that same Bible tells me that I am beautifully and wonderfully made, that my image is in the palm of God's hand, that's who I am. Mm-hmm. You don't get to tell me that you are this or you're that. I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. I am celebrated. I am the apple of God's eye. That's who I am. So my faith is what has defined me. And when the whole world is telling me that, oh, well, you can't make it in life because you're a black woman living in England, or you can't make it in life because you're a woman, or you can't make it in life because you don't get to tell me who I is. It just doesn't work. It's like, no, stay in your lane and know your place and hush your mouth. Let me tell you who I am, and sit down and watch this movie unfold. Then you will know who I am. So it's my faith. And I think also, as I mentioned before, looking into yourself, you know, the introspection, be honest. You know you're a gossip. You know when you hear good news, you don't celebrate people. You know, it might not be written over your face, but you know you think evil and wicked thoughts for people. You know you don't celebrate others. You know, change it, fix it, because they're all seeds.
I love that idea of introspection, because often it's easier to look outwards and compare. One of the things that I do quite often, and one of my other guests, Noha Aesop, talks very much a lot about this, is looking at the lesson in everything. Like, what about me attracted this particular behavior, this particular incident to me right now? Yeah. What am I supposed to see? What am I supposed to learn? Yeah, what's the lesson? Who am I supposed to become as a result of this? Mm-hmm. I did, after the Female Speakers Conference, I had a little incident, shall I say, with an individual. And I remember, like, they'd sent me, which the specifics aren't important, but what I was left with was, why am I being overlooked? That's pretty much what it came down to. And when I really sat with it, what I took from it was less to do with what had happened. The incident aggravated the hell out of me, to be fair. But what I got to see was, you ain't showing up enough. You're still playing too small. Because if you were showing up in your fullness, this would never have happened. How's it going to happen? How's somebody going to not know you was there? Right? How are they not going to know you were there if you were 100% in your power in its fullness? Yeah. So you ain't doing it enough yet. You may have thought you were doing it, but the results as they're coming in, girl, you still got some work to do. And so I think it's really easy to get into that blame.
It's her fault or it's his fault. Yeah.
If my situation had been like this, if I'd had enough money, stuff doesn't always come to me. Well, why? What have you not learned yet? What are you not yet seeing? Yeah. But that introspection of being able to take a beat and look at you and make anything that happens to you for you. Girl, I'm gonna have to say that again. I was having a moment just there. Even I'm just like,
true.
That was good.
No, it's you know, it's so true. It's because it's truth. It's absolute truth, unequivocal truth.
Yeah, it's never against you. Whatever happens to you is for you, girl, for you. But what it means is having the strength to look at it, ask the questions. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it's good, right? Dilys, you know, not everything that happens is good.
Well, losing your husband is not good, but out of it, something good came out of it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's women that I never would have connected with had I not lost my own husband. I could have empathized to a degree, but when I see another woman who's lost her husband, we don't need to talk. I can nod my head and just say, I understand. And that's enough. So there's a level of connection that could only happen if I'd had the experience. Now, you cannot tell me that it is by just chance that I am now connecting with those women, that it's just chance as to why I'm now fighting the cause of women who lose their husbands and are forced to stay in a room with their dead husband's body for days, or women who are forced to drink the water from the water that is used to bathe their dead husband, to prove that if they don't fall sick, that they didn't kill them. Oh yeah, I had to be that person because God knew that I was strong enough to take it. He knew I could be trusted with that commission and that assignment to speak for his daughters. So when I hear people talk about how, the Bible is saying, like, you've never read the Bible. You've never been in a place where you can be taught the word. Do I look like a woman that would follow a religion that is sexist? Me? I am more woman than a lot of women put together. I am woman. How would it be possible that I would put my rubber stamp on something that speaks against the very things I believe in? No, that's the word that's made me who I am today, and proudly so. But I had to be afflicted to be able to be that voice for those women. Do you think I would ever keep quiet if I see, to the day I die, I could get married tomorrow. I was once that widow. So I would always speak on behalf of those women. So when we go through the rape, the abuse, you've got to understand, a friend of mine was raped 2 weeks ago. And it's been tough. I think I was the first person she called, and it was heartbreaking. She said, I will never be the same. I said, says who? Who told you you would never be the same? I said, you'll never be the same if you don't want to be the same. I said, but let me tell you something, you're going to be better. There will be a new normal. I said, there are stages waiting for you to show women how to get through this. She called me basically telling me she was about to end her life. I said, the hell you will. I said, the hell you will. I said, I would wake up and slap you again. What the hell do you mean? Was I unsympathetic? No. I said, but you don't tell me that because of your experience, that defines you and tells you who you are. I said, sweetheart, yes, it's happened more than once because the first time couldn't break you. That's what it was sent for. That was the assignment. The second one ain't going to break you either. And you'll see, actually, there's a GoFundMe page because she needs to be relocated. We're trying to raise $3,000 for her to be relocated. I said, we all have stories, my dear. We just don't tell them. We all have stories. And many people have got things that they just don't share. But we're still here. We're still showing up. You know,
and sometimes it's the stories of others that help somebody else find the strength they need to get past something. Just in that moment, knowing that somebody else was there, they've gone past it, they got through it. It's that little ray of hope that somebody else needs 100%. To say,
that's why I said in the beginning,
could be me.
The lesson was not for you, it was for those coming up. Those coming up. You've got to fight and get through the trauma. You cannot just crumble and die. You owe it to the world. That's what gives purpose to that pain. Don't stop at the pain, then they would have won. You've got to win every time. Listen, if you tell yourself that you're a winner, regardless of what life throws at you, you can never fail. I mean, my God, I know that there were people that when I lost my husband were glad. They thought, finally, I'm telling you, it was like, finally, she will shut the hell up. We're sick and tired of seeing her fabulousness. And I am fabulous. You know?
Yeah, you are.
Like, I'm sick of seeing it. But you know what? They didn't realize there was going to be a double portion and all glory being given to God because of it. I mean, there were people saying, am I the only one that's lost my husband? What's the big deal? I thought, really? You don't realize that every married woman has the potential of being a widow. I thought, that's fine if that's where you want to go, but be careful what you wish for others. Be careful the seeds that you sow.
Yeah. Well, it's all energy in the end of the day. Whatever you put out, you're gonna get it coming back in some way, shape, or form. So you better go out and do some darn good deeds to balance that out.
Absolutely.
If you've been saying, if you've been running your mouth, you better go give to charity or go help somebody out or something.
Do something.
Balance that scale.
100%.
Check yourself. Introspection. So we've got faith, we've got introspection, and then what was your third one?
You tell me.
Accountability, was it?
100%. It's got to be accountability. And we've kind of touched on it before, you know, Be accountable to yourself and be accountable to others. Make sure that you have at least one person in your life that you respect so much that even when you don't agree with them, you give them the space to tell you exactly what they think and feel. Mm-hmm. It's so important. There's a passage in the Bible that says that he that listens to his own counsel is a fool. In other words, somebody that only listens to their own voice, you're a fool. There's a saying in my language that when you're drawing a straight line, it's the person standing behind you that can tell you whether it's straight or crooked. It is never just about one. It's never just about self. Find that one person that you respect so much, whose counsel you will listen to, even if at the end you don't agree. Give them that space to give you their perspective. It's very, very, very important.
I love that. It also means being open to listen to it, because often we hear this idea of having feedback, etc. But I know, look, listen, any of my besties will attest to this. I'm going to tell you about your ass. If you did great, I'm going to tell you did great. If I think you're acting the damn fool, I'm going to tell you I think you're acting like a damn fool. And not everybody can necessarily handle that. They want to hear when it's awesome. But if you're about to do, and I'm not attached to whether you take my advice or you don't take my advice, you listen to me, you don't listen to me. You can hear and just go, okay, Lovelda, I hear you. I'm going to do my own thing. I'll say, cool. But I said my piece. Because to me as well, the reverse of that is I don't want friends who are going to see it come in and not tell me. Like, wait a minute, you're telling me you saw that arrow coming from my back?
You're right. And that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. You're absolutely right. It's not a good thing. If you're somebody that you have the kind of character that nobody can speak into your life, then sorry for you. You're pitiful.
Because people will see things coming that you can't see, right? You know, it's like anytime, you know what it's like. You know when somebody's in a relationship and you're like this, Lord, why you had to pick that one? I can't see what's going on. Nobody likes them because everybody outside of your relationship can see something that you can't see about it, but you're so in it that you can't see it, right? But when you get so angry with those individuals, you push everybody out of the picture, what happens? Now you got egg on your face, you're too scared to go back to them after the fact. Whereas if you can sit with and listen to it, if you can be with it, then you get to develop those sort of depths of relationships. I love that. I think it's so important to have as many people as possible, like at least one. But sometimes people move. Sometimes people move and become less convenient.
The heart of the people that you have around you. I've done shows where I've spoken about friendship. Checking your friends and understanding the role that different people play. Like I had a friend that was a terrible gossip. I'm not going to tell you my personal business. Or a friend that's really stingy. If I need a loan, I'm not coming to you. That way I manage my relationships and I manage my expectations and I manage the opportunity to be offended or to feel let down. Your friend gossips. She never says anything good about anybody. Why the hell will you go and tell her your personal business?
You better know she done and told it to somebody else because it's girl, guess what I just heard? You better know.
Absolutely. Manage your friends and manage your relationships and manage yourself. You know?
Absolutely beautiful. And more on managing friendships. I can't even remember exactly how Michelle Raymond put it. You know Michelle, right?
Yes.
I did an episode with Michelle. We talked about different groups of friends. She's got categories for her friends and her family. Nobody is spared. Nobody is spared in Michelle's world. So if that really resonates with you, I would also recommend that you have a listen to that episode.
Definitely.
Mamma mia, Dilys, we have covered so much. And honestly, every time I hear you talk and just the way that you put things across, I'm like, some people need to hear this. They need to hear it. It comes in such a beautiful, strong, powerful way. And I love that you can show that female strength can come in so many different formats and so many different ways. There'll be people listening to this. Maybe they have gone through a similar experience with you with grieving, or something about what you have said has really struck a chord with you and they really would love to connect. What is the best way of connecting with you?
On social media or my website, which is my name, which is DilysSillah.com. They can always drop me an email or any social media handle, whether it's Twitter, I'm so original, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, it's just Dilys Sillah. So if you can spell my name, which is Dilys, which is Dilys, and the surname is Sillah, which is S for Sierra, Illah, anywhere you'll find me.
Boom. I'll put all those links in the show notes as well. So you're going to have no trouble finding it. And I will also drop a link to the book, Not This Widow, in there.
That's what the
Recommended
cover looks
read.
like. There you go.
Just so you know what you're looking for, folks.
Yes.
If you're listening purely on podcast, you're going to have
front.
to jump over to YouTube to see it. That's the photo from I do recognize that photo.
Yeah,
that's the photo from the funeral.
Yeah. I was reading my husband's tribute at the time, and I so didn't want to be seen. So I got the hugest hat I could find that covered my face. And I had these huge Versace glasses on. I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to be invisible that day. So yeah, that's where that cover comes from.
Beautiful image though. Beautiful image. Dilys, we've covered so much today. If there was just one thing that you could leave our guests with today, what would be the one thing that you would want to leave people with from our discussion today?
I think this is geared towards women, and by nature we have so many layers and facets to us. I would say, you know whether you're happy or not. You know whether you're walking in your power. You know whether you're showing up as you need to show up. Only you can answer that question. If you're not, make it a point to dig deep and do the hard work. I mean, I'm an emotional independence coach, surprise, surprise. But do that work so that you can start to live. Because up until you do that, you're just existing. There's too much to life. And you begin to attract so many different things once you do that work. If relationships are different, business is different, life is different. Take the time and go back and deal with those things. It's hard, it's difficult, but that's why there's people like us around that, are in those professions to help guide you, to be your wingman, to show you like, check this, check that, so that you can live a full and beautiful life. It's too short, life is too short not to. So that is really what I would want to leave anybody that's listening to this.
Chills. Live your best life, girls. No hanging about, no hiding. Do the work. You can't you can't go under it. You can't go around it. You can't jump over it. You just need to go through it. Now, if you've done the work, you need to go out there and be a shining beacon for others
100%.
To be able to do the same thing. So check in the show notes. I have got a brand assessment in there, a speaker brand assessment, where you can go in and have a look at how you're performing now in terms of being visible in that space. But first and foremost, always do the work. I couldn't have said it better, Dilys. Could not have said it better. This has been an absolutely incredible show. Dilys, thank you so much.
You're an amazing hostess,
joining.
Lovelda. You're top notch. I'm fussy. I have had more interviews than I've had hot dinners, and really, you're very good. So a round of applause for my girl.
My girl, thank you. See, she said it. Y'all need to leave me a review just because Dilys was here and she said I was good.
I'm not easy to please. Your husband will tell you. I'm hard. You're good. Very good. Beautiful, natural. I love it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Y'all, we got one more episode after this. Y'all are gonna like this. It's gonna be a sister act show. So I will see you in the next episode. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and until next time, go out there, do the hard work, do the introspective show, and until next time, ladies, ciao.